Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Tuesday Charting with Dan, and not just a Tuesday Charting with Dan, a late Tuesday Charting with Dan.
Yeah, wow.
Not gonna lie, Lon, I ran out of time today.
This one's just gonna squeak in there.
We're gonna do the best we can. Usually my days are cleared on Mondays for charting, and today was not the case. So
Tuesdays are busy.
Thank you for staying up and watching the show. Joining me, Lon Harris. How you doing, Lon? How was your long weekend here in the States for you?
It was a long weekend. In fact, it was extra long because I went to San Francisco for the day on Friday, so it was a 4-day weekend.
A huge, big old 4-day weekend.
Yeah, really. Well, very, very restful.
It was kind of a 4-day weekend for the box office because nothing really broke out this weekend.
No.
As a matter of fact, Dr. Sleep, which was anticipated to be the #1 opening film, and maybe not blow the doors off the box office, but most people, as they were tracking it, thought that it was going to be a debut in the 20-ish range, perhaps. So the #1 movie did not turn out to be the case. Roland Emmerich's Midway won the weekend. Let's look at the top 5 for this weekend. Now, these are the 4-day numbers for the entire Veterans Day weekend. Midway taking the win at #1, perhaps because of the timing of the release, with Dr. Sleep coming in way under what people had thought that it would. While it wasn't a hugely budgeted film, it's projected to still lose about $20 million, they're reporting, for Warner Brothers, coming into a distant second over the 4-day weekend, almost overtaken by John Cena playing with fire.
The firefighter comedy.
Yeah, the movie really, Lon, did not play as they expected it to. And if you're looking at the reception of the movie, it was well reviewed. It got a B+ cinema score, which for a horror movie, those are the same cinema scores that both films have gotten. So when you're looking in that genre, that's not a bad cinema score.
And Stephen King, who famously hates the first Shining movie, got way behind this one.
Stephen King was behind it.
He's been promoting it all week.
They certainly marketed it on the back of the 1980 film from Stanley Kubrick. You would think that all the elements were there. People just didn't want to go
turn
see
out.
it.
It's interesting to me. I mean, I feel like we are so in the movie nerd world, and in the movie nerd world, The Shining is beloved, iconic, worshipped, thought of as one of the great horror movies of all time. I don't disagree, but I know I'm starting to think that maybe outside of that bubble, among the general public, The Shining not the breakout smash hit we think of it as.
Well, and also Dr. Sleep, you see that title and you don't automatically, you kind of have to do a little bit of digging to know what Dr. Sleep is. Dr. Sleep.
If you never saw the poster or the trailer, you might not know it's tied in
what's
directly.
Dr. Sleep and whatever. Whereas if it had been like, The Shining, Dr. Sleep, people might go, The Shining. I'm not saying you have to dumb things down, right? But this is why when we talk about Fast and Furious Presents being on top of things, or a Star Wars story, why don't they just call it Rogue One? It's because you need to translate and get out to people what this movie is. I'm really disappointed, honestly, that this movie didn't do well. I really, really liked it.
Yeah,
I liked it as a sequel to The Shining. I liked it just in general.
And it sort of ties the book and the movie together.
It does, yeah.
I was reading. Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to me because I'm a big fan of Mike Flanagan, the guy who made it, who also did the Hill House show on Netflix, Oculus, which I think is a pretty above average horror movie, and Gerald's Game on Netflix, which is a fantastic Stephen King adaptation, I think. So it's disappointing. Just you would hope this would take him to the next level where he could make even bigger, more ambitious projects, and
Why these are good ones, and we're going to look at some numbers in a little bit as far as movies that come out a long time afterwards. But you look at the best ones, and they seem to be the ones that do the worst. The two that jump to my mind are Dr. Sleep, which I really enjoyed, and Blade Runner 2049, which I also really enjoyed.
I loved.
Did not do well. But some other ones that maybe aren't as great, Jurassic World, different kind of movie. We'll talk about that.
I mean, I think
perform better.
Maybe the same kind of thing I was saying about The Shining, and I have no numbers to back this up. This is just this is a hypothesis. But both The Shining and Blade Runner, they're kind of cult movies. They're movies that have a very devoted fan base, but I don't know if it's everybody.
Well, they were marketed, and they were Warner Brothers in both cases attempted to sell that movie to everybody. And in both cases, it seems like they did not succeed in that mission. And
I feel like, something like Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, fresher in people's minds. The first movie was a huge blockbuster breakout success.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bad comparison.
Well, no, but I mean, generally, I think these are attempts to revitalize this IP that's, niche IP is gonna be an uphill battle for these studios.
Well, we'll look at past results of that revitalization and those other projects in a bit. But really quickly, let's finish out the rest of the top 5. One of the weirdest Christmas movies I've seen in a long time. Last Christmas for the 4-day weekend comes in at number 4, just ahead of Terminator Dark Fate. Big drop from last week, which wasn't a great debut to begin with. It drops from number 1 to number 5. We say goodbye to Maleficent in the top 5. We say goodbye to Joker in the top 5. But we've got some. It is nearing a huge milestone, which we'll be talking about next week.
He had a good run, the Joker. He can make some room.
Joker's fine.
For Last Christmas. I think Last Christmas benefited from, people complained about that trailer because it gave too much away and sort of let you know there's some twist or some revelation coming. I think it helped. I think it made people want to know.
Well, people were talking about how weird the movie was.
There was a lot of buzz all week about what the hell is going on with this Emilia Clarke Christmas movie and what's the twist. And I think that probably helped them.
Well, it's got the rest of the holiday season, I guess.
Because otherwise it just looks like a Hallmark Christmas movie with movie stars.
It is.
Right. I mean, you see that trailer and you're like, this could be on Lifetime. It's just
if you take Henry Golding and Emilia Clarke
and Michelle Yeoh,
you put it on Hallmark, and people would absolutely know what that movie was.
Right.
Yeah. It's exactly what it is.
So I think it helped to give it that just baffling, like, what is going on with this movie in that trailer?
Let's look at top per theater, and another movie that I really like that did do well this weekend is Honey Boy from director Lon Harris, written by Shia LaBeouf, autobiographically really written by Shia LaBeouf. It makes $75,000 in just 4 theaters, Lon, which puts it up there. We talk about the per theater numbers for 2019, how they keep adding on top of each other. Honey Boy actually displaces at number 5. We talked about Jojo Rabbit going on the chart not too long ago. Well, Shia LaBeouf and Honey Boy and Alma Harrell displace Jojo Rabbit on that list of the 2019 per theater averages, the highest 2019 per theater averages. Parasite still the number 1 film of the year on that chart, I believe. And then followed by Jay and Silent Bob, which is still road showing. Farewell, Avengers Endgame, and Honey Boy comes in right below Avengers Endgame as far as per theater averages. So I think we're probably going to see that chart change some more as we get further into the season.
We definitely are.
But a good limited run beginning for Honey Boy. I really, really like that movie.
And we're right now these are the really crucial weeks for a movie like this. Like Honey Boy having a breakout, it means it's going to open a little bit wider. They'll keep putting more support in it. And then in terms of awards buzz, all of these things just snowball.
It's how Lady Bird built momentum. It's how 3 Billboards built momentum in award seasons past.
And so Honey Boy's definitely looking to get in there and sort of score some of these acting noms, screenwriting noms, based on having this success sort of in theaters. And I was actually just reading a piece about Netflix also opened Marriage Story in limited release this past week in a few screens. And Honey Boy massively outpaced Marriage Story in terms of per screen average.
Well, how do they know? Netflix doesn't report numbers.
No, from the theaters.
Oh.
Like the theaters that are playing it. Like it's at the Vista, it's at the Paris in New York. So those theaters report numbers. So Honey Boy doing a lot better than Marriage Story could impact its fate in a few months when people are voting.
We'll see. But again, Marriage Story had the advantage now of being with Netflix.
Right, but a lot more people will see Marriage Story once it goes.
A chance to see it.
Once it goes up on screens,
Lon, let's look at from the per theater average to worldwide, and by the very, very slimmest of margins, the winner, I guess you could say that, remains the same, Terminator Dark Fate, although a drop of over 60% from last weekend. So first of all, a narrow victory over Midway, and secondly, the movie still not doing the movie a lot of favors. Still, as you can see, Midway right on its heels at number 2, Joker at number 3. Again, look at this stack up here: Joker, Maleficent, and Dr. Sleep all clustered together at number 3, 4, and 5. I mentioned Joker, Lon. We are nearing another member of the $1 billion club. Joker is only $15 million away from cracking that mark. It's going to do it. It's going to do it probably today or tomorrow.
Wow.
More than likely, definitely this week. So we are going to have yet another member of the $1 billion club. I believe that will be number 7 for the year.
I think that sounds right.
With a lot of movies still yet to come this year.
A couple big contenders for that
two,
one.
With Frozen and Star Wars. 2 that you would think are I mean, I think Star Wars is as close to a lock as you could get, just historically, as far as the saga. I know Solo didn't do well. Frozen, I think, is a pretty good contender. And then you've got others. Nobody pegged Joker as $1 billion.
Certainly not. We were debating. I mean, I know Spencer and I read the script and we're debating, are people going to go see this? Like, is this going to flop?
Right. Yeah. And it did not. As a matter of fact, it was
quite the opposite.
Smash sensation.
Yeah, I feel like Frozen 2, I don't know. I'm very interested because I feel like the song isn't. There's a new song.
Let It Go did, yeah.
And it's already on the radio. Like, I'm already hearing the Frozen 2 song, and it's not having the breakout cultural moment that Let It Go had. Mm-hmm. Is that going to impact? Are less people going to go see Frozen 2 opening first week or two just because they're not sucked into the song already?
I mean, Let It Go did it for the movie the first time, but now it's a brand.
Yeah, now
so you just don't need a Let It Go because you can just open it based on the Frozen name. So we'll see.
And yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it has to do with the marketing as well. One thing I was going to mention with Midway, I saw people talk about it massively, heavily advertised on football the last few weeks. So
and Veterans Day weekend, obviously, tying in.
But like when you have an audience that you can grab around one, you can buy ads on this one thing, and that whole that's your target audience. I think that probably helped.
Yeah, and I mean, it's no disrespect to Midway, but it is very surprising that it ended up being the #1 film of the weekend. Almost nobody of the prognosticators had that pegged. Almost everyone had penciled in Dr. Sleep in there at #1.
Well, you think Midway, it's based on a well-known battle, but it doesn't have this massively well-known famous movie that it's sort of drafting off of.
So Lon, Dr. Sleep, as we mentioned, another entry into, and it is a long list. I actually had prepared comprehensive data on all of the ones I could find, but I literally ran out of time. Yeah. So this is most of them that you're going to see coming up. But we see this from time to time, is a movie will pump out, sometimes they won't pump out any sequels, sometimes they'll pump out 1 or 2 sequels, sometimes more, and then they'll go dormant.
Right.
They'll go away for a while, and then they'll come back a decade or so later and make a follow-up. So I wanted to put together numbers. Now, these aren't just sequels. These aren't or prequels or reboots. This is not a franchise coming back with a new movie that's a reboot or a Monsters University type film where it's like, let's go back to the beginning. These are movies that had direct sequels, meaning returning characters, continuing storylines, etc. There were some tough ones, like Mad Max Fury Road is not on this list because we discussed this. It's like, I don't know if that counts necessarily as, yes, you're bringing Max back, but like, is it a continuation of the story? Is it not?
It's sort of halfway between sequels and an anthology kind of film.
So Mad Max is not on this list, but generally these are films that are either direct continuations or, bring back a character and a storyline that you could say, okay, there is a connective tissue back to the original film in a way that it's definitely not a reboot, definitely not a prequel. So first of all, I wanted to look at, these are franchises that went away for 10 years and then, or not in all cases went away. Star Wars is an example of one. Technically, there's a lot of technicalities on this list, and we'll go through them. Star Wars is on this list because The Force Awakens is a direct sequel to Return of the Jedi. And while there were many Star Wars movies, not many, but a few, between 1983 and 2015, it's on this list because the direct sequel to Return of the Jedi did not come out until 2015.
That's the next part of the story.
There are a few things that we'll point out, but generally, these are the franchises that took some time off from their story, came back 10 plus years later, and actually outperformed the film that came before it. Let's take a look at that chart. These are, as I mentioned, as you can see, a 10-year gap that outgrows the previous film. It's a short list. You've got Tron, the original, and Tron Legacy. You've got Rocky, from Rocky 5 to Rocky Balboa. Star Wars, as I mentioned, Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens. The Jurassic franchise, which almost didn't make the list, but then I remembered, you've got Dr. Wu, you've got Henry Wu. He is a character. He's a legacy character from the first franchise.
Jurassic World.
Yeah, it's into Jurassic World.
I mean, they tie it in. Like, they explain how the new company bought it from InGen, and it's a sequel.
Yeah, so from Jurassic World to Jurassic Park 3. Toy Story from 1999 to 2010. Now, these are all, I should mention, adjusted for inflation, and they're domestic numbers because global markets didn't exist. It wouldn't be quite a one-to-one comparison.
It wouldn't be
this
fair.
is as close as we can get. The Incredibles, which the sequel outgrossed the original by quite a healthy margin. And then 2 that I didn't even think about. One of them being Shaft, which is Shaft in Africa came out in 1979. 1973. Then in 2000, the series came back, but they brought Richard Roundtree, even though Samuel L. Jackson was the lead of the series, Richard Roundtree also returned, so it does count as a continuation.
Yeah, it's the ongoing story of the Shaft family.
Yeah, the Shaft family, and then Triple X being the last one, which was between Triple X State of the Union and Return of Xander Cage. Even though neither of them did particularly well, Xander Cage, Vin Diesel did, at least domestically and really worldwide. As I mentioned, these are just domestic numbers, juiced up that franchise.
Yeah, well, Vin had built a global audience from Fast and Furious by that point.
So those are the franchises that went away for 10 years or stopped telling a story for 10 years, came back and did better than the last film.
Right.
You want to see the ones that didn't?
Let's do it.
Let's take a look. All right, so here's a few of them. You've got the Ocean's franchise. Now, these, I'm not saying these are all flops, by the way.
Right.
A lot of these, like Ocean's 8, was a success. Some of these are not. You've got
a lot
Rambo.
of them, you can see the redo, it was comparable to the original. I think
Rambo
maybe build.
is on there twice, which is odd. You have Rambo, which laid off for 20 years and then had a diminishing return. Then you had Rambo, which laid off for another 11 years and had another diminishing return. Independence Day is the one really like, yikes, look at that drop off. There was a lot lost between the first Independence Day and the second one. Then you have Scream, a big drop off between Scream 3 and Scream 4. My Big Fat Greek Wedding could not recapture the zeitgeist there. The Unbreakable films compared pretty well there.
That's Split.
That's Unbreakable and Split.
We're considering Split to be the sequel.
Yes, because you bring in David Dunn at the end. Dumb and Dumber, a huge drop off between. Now those are the two adult Harry and Lloyd films, not including the prequel, obviously. The Ring, between The Ring 2 and Rings, a huge drop off. Blair Witch Blair Witch, the 2016 movie, was a direct sequel to the first Blair Witch Project movie, not Book of Shadows. So that's these are direct sequels. That's the other thing. Sometimes you have to skip entries to go from direct sequels. Then you've got Mamma Mia. Obviously there. Blade Runner, which we talked about, neither film actually particularly overachieved at the box office, but 2017 did slightly less when you adjust for inflation.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying about Shining 2 and Blade Runner. Like, those are movies where I think the studios imagined that they built a huge audience over the years. Yeah. And maybe they have, or they built admirers, but I don't know if it doesn't seem like they built that massive, like, huge diehard fan.
Well, there's another one there that was next to it. If you look, Zoolander, which you can tell the studio really thought had built a cult over the last 16 years, did not do well. Mary Poppins. I had to go back and do some historical research, but Mary Poppins, did all right, but not the numbers that his predecessor did.
Yeah, that was generally a disappointment, I feel like, last year.
Men in Black 2 and Men in Black 3, a fairly hefty drop-off between those two films. So again, I'm not saying that these are all failures, but it just goes to show you how rare it is for a movie to come out 10 years since the last movie and do well. As a matter of fact, it's so not rare for it to do poorly that this chart about sequels has a sequel.
Oh my God.
Do you want to see it? Let's see the sequel. Look at that. And there's even more that I couldn't fit. I ran out of time. Finding Nemo and Finding Dory, those are both huge successes, but they count.
Drop off.
Halloween. Now that's one where you count the direct sequel. The 2018's Halloween was a direct sequel to 1978's Halloween.
Right.
And while both were phenomenally successful, again, Halloween could not outgross the original. Psycho from 1960 to 1983. Psycho 2 was actually a pretty successful movie, but the original Psycho, people forgot how successful that was. But then you see things like Chinatown, which was a big success in the 70s.
Jakes.
Tried to come back in the 94, could not do it. The Last Picture Show, which was a big success in the 70s, tried to come back in the 90s, could not do it.
It's tough with those because they're critical, huge, beloved, artistic, critical successes, and then the sequels were trashed by critics of the day. Like the Two Jakes got pilloried by the critics, and so that's gonna hurt if you're trying to sell it to the people who love great cinema, and then it's getting trashed by the critics.
And a lot of these are kind of legacy franchises, because you saw in there next The Godfather being one that took over 10 years off.
Two Jakes is really disappointing.
You've got Carpenter's Escape From franchise. Oh, massive drop off there for the Blues Brothers. Look at The Odd Couple. Again, this kind of shows you sometimes the danger of stepping away and thinking you can come back and catch that zeitgeist. Terminator, between Terminator 2 and 3.
Odd Couple 2 is definitely trying to play off of, and it's weird that this is going to come up twice in our discussion today.
That's true.
Grumpy Old Men. Grumpy Old Men was such a smash that they were like, bring these guys back in everything. Just mapped out Lemon all over the place. And that's why we got the bizarre Odd Couple 2.
If you want more Grumpy Old Men talk, tune into Honest Trailer Commentaries tomorrow. Somehow Grumpy Old Men got brought up there as well. Just really quickly finishing out that chart, Indiana Jones. Again, both movies successes. Wall Street,
Yeah.
was a
Money
second
Never
Wall
Sleeps.
Street. And then look what's on this chart. It was on the other chart, and it's on this one too. Shaft. Between 2000 Shaft, and then this year they did another one. Nobody went to see it.
Yeah. Wow.
And then Die Hard dropped off between Die Hard with a Vengeance and Live Free, Die Hard. Although both movies did well. So again, this really shows. We talk about a lot of times in Hollywood. It's crazy because they seem to try the same things over and over again. And get the same result, and then kind of act surprised. So the reason I put that chart together is not to say a lot of those movies were definitely flops, big flops. A lot of them were not flops, but it goes to show, and really I think the one that's more interesting is the very, very few that have come out and exceeded the previous film. I think every time studios are shooting for that. They're aiming for that. They want to make that sequel that doesn't just recapture what people loved, but exceeds it. And The Shining was not a huge box office success necessarily at the time, although over time I'm sure it's made back all of the money that got put into it because it's a very successful movie.
Right.
But it felt like part of it was Warner Brothers saying, okay, well, we're going to tap into this thing that people love, even though it might be a cult film. Everybody loves it now. And much like what happened with Blade Runner 2049, I think they found out that while there may be very passionate fans of the movie, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to run out to the theater and see it. And as demonstrated by that chart, it's very rare that actually happens, that you can go away, that you can stop telling a story for 10 years or more and then come back. And, some of them have come close, but very, very few of them exceed. And most of them take a substantial drop down, even though they're follow-ups to very popular movies.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, especially now that we're so deep in the streaming era. I mean, Disney Plus launched today. It's interesting. Is this going to revitalize? Is it going to get easier to sell people on, come to see this archive thing that's 10, 15 years old? I mean, there was a time like we were looking and, when the Two Jakes came out, or the follow-up to the Last Picture Show, the name of which I'm blanking on. Texasville. Thank you. When those came out, if you wanted to see the Last Picture Show, you had to go to Blockbuster. Yeah. Hey, do you guys have the Last Picture Show? It might be in drama. Maybe they don't have it if they only got one copy, or they may not even have come out on DVD yet or whatever. It was hard to track that stuff down. It was just it wasn't as present in people's minds. So I'm curious, after everybody has HBO Max and Disney Plus for a few years, and all of these movies are relatively at our fingertips, will it get easier to sell people on a catalog sequel? I don't know.
Well, because people have easier access to older films, but also there's so many more things competing for their attention.
That's true.
That I don't envy any executive, honestly, at any studio right now, because you have to navigate this thing, and you can't predict human behavior.
And it's so
you can try.
It's so valuable. I mean, they're taking all of these risks. They're trying it over and over again. It's so valuable to have a piece of IP that is reliable. That if you figure out that every time we make something that ties into The Shining, people are going to see it. Yeah. You've opened up a whole world of possibilities for yourself. And now that did not happen this time.
And maybe at some point in the future, I will tackle reboots and prequels and stuff. But as I mentioned, I did my best today.
Yeah, time was tight.
There was stuff that couldn't. I had Predator.
There's a lot going on.
I had a lot of stuff.
We gotta go watch the Shaggy DA.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes, and I just couldn't make time.
It's on there.
Not true. I'm sure it's on there.
It is.
Let's look at the 2019 list domestically. No changes as far as rankings, although Joker, as we mentioned, over $300 million. Gaining on Aladdin, we'll see. I don't know if it's going to quite catch it, but it's there at number 7. A bit of a doldrum before we hit the holiday box office season, which is going to crank into high gear here pretty soon. The worldwide chart is the one that we're going to make a big change to next week for 2019, because while nothing changed positions, Joker, as you can see right there at number 7, we're going to be adding another digit to that number next week, because it will become the 7th member of the 2019 $1 billion club. It will also become, let's see, the 4th comic book film or film from a comic book source.
It's inspired by comic books. I think that's fair.
It's not a comic book film, though, the way that like Spider-Man Far From Home is.
It's not adapting one specific Joker story.
So we're going to be adding another member to the $1 billion club next week on that chart, and then Frozen 2 starts rolling out here in a week or so. So I'm sure we're
not this Friday, but next Friday.
Next Friday, yeah. So that is the box office countdown. Now, Lon, of course, more and more people are tuning into the show, and I love it that you're enjoying it, to join us as we mount down to the release of Cats. It's been 8 days since our last Meltdown one, which means that we are under 40 days.
Yeah.
We are 39 days away from the release of Cats, which, by the way, I was reading, because it is, I assume, still vastly being worked on in post-production, will miss the deadline for many major awards.
They're rushing to the finish line to get it done in time for the Meltdown to finish.
Yeah,
so,
they're racing. They're racing against the Meltdown clock, and I don't think they're going to make it. Meow it.
I don't know.
But this is what happened with Greatest Showman.
Yeah.
Greatest Showman largely was put out after the deadline for a lot of awards. I think maybe because the studio perhaps didn't think that it was going to, and it wasn't a critical success.
Yes.
And it ended up, perhaps if they had given it a bigger push, it may have done better for award season. But it looks like Cats will be, it's going to have to be something really special to get on a lot of the award show ballots, because it's going to miss the deadlines for a lot of the big early major award shows.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that doesn't mean the Oscars. It means like the SAG Awards, like the earlier
Golden
ones,
Globes, etc., which are important keystones on the way to the Academy
Those inform what people vote for the bigger awards.
Well, Lon, we're not just mounting down to Cats. We are introducing you to a new cat, and this week's cat is a cat of mystery, because, Lon, unlike the other cats that we have talked about, this week's cat is not a part of the Jellicle Cats.
I still don't know what that means.
It's like their group.
It's like their club.
Yeah,
so it's like a gang. The Jellicle Cats. I thought it was like a biological. Like, these are Jellicle cats, and these are just cats.
I think it's like a Venn diagram.
It's like a social club.
But there's some kind of a supernatural component involved
like being
somewhere.
A cat Freemason.
I feel like the Jellicle cats. They're very special cats. But this character is not a part of the Jellicle Cats. As a matter of fact, it's not even a real character. We've mentioned this character on the show before. Today we're meeting Growl Tiger.
He looks like a character?
He looks like a character, but here's the thing about Growl Tiger. As you can see, he has an eye patch.
He's wearing a Cosby sweater.
Yes, he is. It's just the 80s. All the cats
you see, the cats. Okay.
This used to be much more fun. Yeah. As you can see, he's wearing an eye patch because we mentioned Growl Tiger briefly before when we were talking about Gus the theater cat. He's a pirate cat.
Okay. Yeah.
Growl Tiger is a pirate cat, and he is a cat that is. I've mentioned that most of the songs in the musical are about introducing other Jellicle cats.
Yes.
This is a song that introduces this cat who is inside the world of cats, another fictional character.
Right, so he's
a fictional character inside this fictional world.
We covered that Gus the theater cat is an acting cat.
Yes.
So the idea would be this would be a character that a cat might play in a cat theatrical performance.
Yes. So basically, there's a song called Growl Tiger's Last Stand.
Sure.
Which was not filmed for the 1998 version.
Okay.
And was not included in the Broadway revival.
Okay.
But this role will be included in the film version. Basically, Gus, the theater cat, talks about like all of these great performances.
Who's going to be Ian McKellen?
Who's going to be Ian McKellen, and he talks about Growl Tiger. And so Growl Tiger's Last Stand is about this like kind of pirate cat named Growl Tiger who is in love with this other cat named Lady Griddlebone.
Of course.
And he's terrified of other pirates who are Siamese.
All right.
Siamese pirates.
Okay.
And so
I'm choosing not to get hung up on cat pirates, just like because we had cats doing espionage. We've had
this
cats
is cat
doing
fiction, though. This is cat fiction.
Right. So I'm trying not to get too hung up on it. Like, wouldn't cats have had to like go to sea to have a concept of a cat pirate?
Well, but this is a fictional cat inside of the cat universe.
So maybe they read about human pirate adventures, and they're like, why not us?
He's the Blackbeard of the cat universe, and that the cats themselves have written a narrative about Growl Tiger, who's a pirate.
Our pirate fiction as humans is at least loosely based on real history. There were pirates, and we're telling stories about them. For cats, I'm betting there never were cat pirates. And
you don't think there were cats on those pirate ships?
Oh, maybe.
I promise you there were cats on those pirate ships, and that, I think, makes them cat pirates.
Eat the cats.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I don't know.
Would they eat the parrots? Lon, I'm not here to argue the intricacies of cat piracy.
Leave us in the comments below. Did they have cats on pirate ships? And if so, would those have been considered pirate cats?
We're getting lost in the weeds of this cat pirate thing. So
in the weeds on cat pirates.
David S. Pumpkin.
Yeah. All right, let's continue. I'm sorry.
Growl Tiger, fictional character inside the narrative of Cats, a meta narrative inside the narrative, to be played in this film by, I'm not making this up, film tough guy Ray Winstone. or Ray Winstone.
Ray Winstone, yeah.
Will be playing Growl Tiger.
Sure. Okay.
So, but he's not in any of the trailers or anything.
I assumed just by what you were saying that Ian McKellen would, like, he was talking about his greatest roles. Why wouldn't we see Gus
he's talking about he liked playing that character.
So we're
talking about the character.
We're going to see
Tiger.
in his imagination Ray Winstone embodying the character.
This character that Gus the theater cat enjoyed.
All right. I hope he does it exactly like his role in Sexy Beast. That's what just almost nude, tanned,
hanging out by the pool.
Belly,
and then Ben Kingsley shows up and yells at him. Honestly, I would just love for Sexy Beast to be restaged with both in cat outfits.
Just dressed like
would
cats.
Be amazing.
I love it.
Growl Tiger seems like a simple concept, but perhaps the most complicated cat concept that we've talked about thus far. So inside the narrative of Cats, we have another figure, Growl Tiger, who did not make the cut for many Cats adaptations, but did make the cut for this film.
It's weirdly like Tales of the Black Freighter in Watchmen.
Yes, I thought about the same thing.
It's like a fictional pirate narrative in the fictional universe.
Growl Tiger's Last Stand is the Tales of the Black Freighter of the Cats universe.
Got it. Now it makes perfect sense.
Also about pirates.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like pirate fiction in the middle of these weird fictional universes.
So there you go.
Yeah. Always pirates.
You're welcome. Growl Tiger.
That's it.
Cat pirates inside of the cat world, but not the real cat world. Lon, next week, I don't know who we're going to introduce. We got a lot left.
Somehow there's more cats.
There's so many cats. But Growl Tiger, definitely one of the more interesting ones.
Had to get to that one.
Had to get to Growl Tiger.
Ray Winstone cat.
So Lon, this week, another crowded week at the movies. First of all the holdovers from the previous weeks, but then we've got Ford versus Ferrari with Christian Bale and Matt Damon, directed by James Mangold.
Yeah, big award hopeful.
Award hopeful.
Yeah.
You can see that review minus the F-bomb that I dropped in the unedited one that accidentally got uploaded early. You can find that review here on Fandom Entertainment, as well as a review of Honey Boy, the movie that we talked about later. We've got Charlie's Angels. We were talking about that before the show. A new Charlie's Angels for a new era.
I feel like they're not selling me. Like, where's the marketing? Where's the ads? I feel like they're barely even promoted this movie to me.
It seems like a big movie that's really just sneaking
flying
up
under the radar.
Yeah. I haven't seen any streaming stuff come through for it either, so I may get a chance to see it.
Elizabeth Banks, Kristen Stewart. It seems like it would be bigger.
We were talking about Ian McKellen. He and Helen Mirren have a movie coming out this weekend called The Good Liar, which I want to see.
Yeah, it looks like a twisty,
looks like
mystery
a
thriller
twisty,
thing.
Fun movie with the guy from Downton Abbey, the butler.
Mr. Carson?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Carson.
I don't know that
I want to say
name.
Mr. Carson from Downton Abbey. I'm so sorry. I've forgotten your name.
I don't know that actor's name.
Jim.
I'm sorry. I don't know a lot of the. I love Downton Abbey, but I really only know like Hugh Bonneville's.
It's hard to keep everybody straight.
Yeah.
There's so many upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
There's a movie coming out from Entertainment Studios, the movie that I'm not really sure exists, that I actually did not look up because it's called All Rise. And I have no idea what it's about, and I kind of don't want to know.
There's a new CBS show this season that's also called All Rise. It's about like a new judge.
I don't. Is it about an animal? You look up All Rise.
I'm looking it
and
up
I'm going
right
to
now.
speculate as to what it's about. I think it is an animal court. I think it is about a dog, a live action dog, but with the interior monologue voice like in 9 Lives. It's about a judge who gets put in the body of a dog.
That's weird. All I'm seeing is the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I make this up?
I don't know.
Can you check the release schedule for? I swear, I
looked up All Rise, and the only thing coming up is
going
that CBS
crazy?
show.
This is what happens when I'm rushing, folks. Is I make up movies from Entertainment Studios.
Was it maybe a festival?
It was on the release schedule. I thought it said wide release this week.
It might have been like this thing that played some festivals that's opening.
Look on the numbers, the-numbers.com, a wonderful website.
We recommend
Billy, is that like the light? Is that my light, the wrap it up signal? I'm sorry. I guess I don't know.
We'll check it out.
We'll check it out. Help me solve the All Rise. I could have made this up. I don't know. Wrap it. Oh, wow. We actually have a wrap it up.
Wow. I didn't even see that.
All right. Sorry, Billy.
No, you're right. All Rise. I see it right here.
Right?
Yeah, Entertainment Studios.
I'm not crazy.
Sunday. Oh, it was that one I was looking at. It's a Sundance movie from last year.
Oh, okay. Definitely not a talking cat.
It's not about a talk. Monster is what the prosecutor calls 17-year-old honor student Steve Harmon. He's being charged with felony murder. But is Steve really a monster? Adapted from the best-selling novel of the same name by Walter Dean Myers.
Oh, okay. All right, so it's
like,
not about
it is a courtroom thing. It is a courtroom thing.
Well, I was right about the courtroom part, at least, although that didn't really take much.
All rises.
Also, two films that are getting some award buzz, or at least big pushes from Amazon: The Report,
yes,
Adam Driver, and Waves from A24. Both kind of making the rounds for some awards consideration. So check out those if they're around you. Lon, that's all I got.
Dan, yeah.
Thanks for watching.